Welcome back to another episode of Inside Access Control sponsored by SIA. Very excited today. I think everyone's going to enjoy this very much. But I have Sheryl Pinckney-Maas joining me. She's the CEO and founder of Guardian Zone. So Sheryl, thank you very much for taking the time to join me.
Well, thank you for having me, Lee.
Of course, it's been a long time coming. You and I have been talking for a little bit, so I'm glad we had the opportunity to do this. Why don't you, before we jump into the product, which super interesting, definitely topical, and really where the marketplace is going. But before we jump into that, why don't you tell me a little bit about your story, because that's in itself interesting, and people love to hear the sort of founder story. So if you don't mind, jump into who you are and how you got to where you're at.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. As you said, I'm the CEO and founder of Guardian Zone, and I started Guardian Zone in 2016. It was inspired actually by the terrorist attacks that happened in Paris in 2015 in November. I was for many years, for 25 years, I was a foreign service officer. I lived in many countries. I lived in high threat countries, terrorist countries. I lived in Amman, Jordan. I lived in South Africa. I lived in China. So what happened was my husband is from the Netherlands, and because we go to the Netherlands, his family actually lives 5 hours from Paris. And so we always go to Paris. I've been to Paris. Every time I go to visit his family, we go to Paris as a side trip. And so when those terrorist attacks happened in 2015, it happened in an area that we've been to. And so even though we didn't go the last trip, it was kind of like, wow, we could have been there, and we could have been, that could have happened very easily to us. And so it had a huge impact, and I watched what was going on. And so as I was watching how people responded at the Bataclan Theater, which was where they had the concert, and all the things that were happening, and people jumping out the windows and stuff. And initially with the active shooter, people thought it was fireworks. And so people in the back who knew it wasn't fireworks had no way of passing information on to anyone. Law enforcement came, they put up their perimeters, but it took them a while before they went in. And a lot of, and we understand that because they have information could have been conveyed to them, either by the security officer who was there or by the people, and just having information flow out. Maybe it could have saved time. It could have cut that down. And so when I created Guardian Zone, my goal was to create a technology that really for large public places where people go, those are the places where you do have those attacks. You have them at, a Walmart. You have them at a concert, like the Jason Aldean concert. And, you just go to with your family and something happens, and you don't know how to respond. And so Guardian Zone was created to be a tool that security officers can use, and the crowd and the public can use to kind of bridge that communication gap during that emergency. And that's why we came up with the Guardian Zone.
No, it's heart-wrenching, the tragic events that happen, and then the reflective part of understanding that if people had things there, they could save a lot of lives and not as much tragedy, and so the desire to do that. What's interesting to me is, this is a great example of data, right, and insights being utilized, where a lot of the systems that, especially on the access control side, when we talk about it's primarily been about locking and unlocking and keeping people out that shouldn't be there in, but sort of the part that is starting to get far more attention, especially now with COVID, which is a little bit different on your end, but health data and stuff like that. But it's about data, and it's about making it actionable. I guess I'll start with right out of the gate. It's like, this stuff seems like a no-brainer. So why do you think it's not standardized as a solution, if you would, on everything? Because it seems to me like people would want, if our core function as an industry is keeping people safe, why wouldn't we exercise the tools that we have in order to do that?
I think for me, from what I've learned, I've been a part of different organizations, as is and SIA, and just talking to people and just looking at the culture of security. And I think for a long time, law enforcement who come from those industries, it was kind of like, we're coming in to protect you, right? Protect and serve. So, hey, something's happening. Okay, you just sit there. We're coming in to protect you. But the way the world works now, by the time law enforcement shows up and first responders show up, it's all over. And so now we have to empower people to be a part of that. And I think also we have to bridge that communication. We have to build trust. I spoke to a gentleman not too long ago, and he's like, yeah, but we almost see the public as other, right? And my thing was, what do you mean by other? And he says, well, if I'm law enforcement, I trust my brothers and I trust my sisters, but I don't know who you are. And I said, I understand that. And I said, but if you kind of look at what's going on in the streets now, that other thing needs to change. We need to build, in order for us all to be safe, we all have to be empowered to do something. And my empowerment is, hey, if you have this technology at a stadium, at a shopping mall, at a K through 12 school, and I come there and I'm able to engage with your security. If I see something, if I hear something, or better yet, something is going on and your security can send out a mass alert to everyone and I'm part of that team, that keeps me safe, but that also helps me feel comfortable going into your facility. And I think in light of COVID, I think building that trust and that loyalty is even more important now, more than ever, that people need to feel that if they go into a space, they can say, hey, this person isn't social distancing, or these people, or social distancing isn't happening. Or one of the things that our technology does is, hey, if a COVID should break out and everyone who had downloaded the app at that time, security can actually go in and send a mass alert saying there was a COVID outbreak. We know that your cell phone was in our space at that time. And therefore we would like to send this information, and you can send a link, you can send a letter, you can send whatever, that information to tell them what they need to do as next steps. And so I think that with COVID, I think technologies like mine are becoming more important for people to use. How do we get people back into the office? How do we get people back to the stadiums? How do we get people back, how do we keep people in school, right? Because the kids go to school and then next thing you know, the schools are closing down. So all of this is important, and tools like ours, technology like ours, can actually help in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a well-documented sort of conversation at this point that the big thing on this is the trust side of people. It's not just about the safety side. And, there's some statistics that have been out and studies that have shown that there's people have worry around the places that they work, they live, where they pray, all those things about having them feel safe. Anything that our systems can do, instead of just being protecting people, but then also projecting, if you would, this ability for people to build trust is important. And a key part of that is consistent communication. Taking that data points and getting that out.
And having it real time, fast, accurate information. I was thinking about something because I was thinking about access control and how technology like this, can actually help an organization, because you can ask your visitors to download the app when they come in or before they come in. And I use an example of, I went to a Fortune 500 company not too long ago, and it was for a women, women entrepreneurs, and it was kind of like bringing us in there. And so we actually had a security brief, and they were like, well, if anything should happen, there's a red phone, you pick up the red phone and you dial, these digits. And if you happen to be walking on the campus and during the break, you dial these 10-digit numbers, right? And so, we were women from all different industries, from oil and gas to different things. I mean, we were just women entrepreneurs. So I raised my hand because I was the only one in security. And I said, well, first of all, I'm looking around where we are, and there is no red phone. And when he looked around, we were in the part of the building that did not have a red phone. So that information was not pertinent to us. And then I said, okay, and then you gave us 10-digit numbers. And he says, yes, well, you can dial the 10-digit number. So I said, can I ask a question? How many people wrote down that 10-digit number? And I think out of 100 people, maybe 5. So to me, it's like, wouldn't it be great if you can just have a mobile app, open it up, have it, and if something happens, push a button and connect immediately with on-site security. That's what I think is the beauty of this. And what Guardian Zone does is we don't have a closed community. We call it a temporary community because we want to be able to, if your Coca-Cola vending guy comes, we want him to be able to have the app and be able to engage with security or receive messages from security. It's a two-way communication. It's being able to pass information on because he may see something that security or cameras or something else doesn't see, and it would be great if he could pass that information on. And what you find is a lot of people are hesitant to call 911 if they're unsure, but they would probably be inclined to contact security because it's kind of a different level, base level of interaction, right? And so that's kind of how I saw Guardian Zone slotting into that because a lot of my competitors do go to 911 or they have it, or it's a closed community. And my thing is, because we have closed communities, it's not that those technologies don't work, but they don't work in places where the general public will go. It's not going to work in the movie theater. It's going to be hard to work in a mall. It's not going to work at the stadium. It's not going to work at that outdoor concert. Whereas Guardian Zone was designed really to allow those people in so that everybody gets to participate and be a part of the process so that we can help law enforcement and security do their job to help us, right?
I love it. You said this before, right? Yeah, but no, I know it totally makes sense. Having the sort of open platform where, and also the flexibility of people feeling comfortable. I think maybe that might be a key thing that I take away too from you is, and I like to sort of chew on these things a little bit more, but this idea that some of the practices, giving people the flexibility to go to where they feel comfortable to report the information versus, exposing them to maybe an area where they don't. So that whole see something, say something. People inherently, I'm reading a book right now called Humankind, and it's around this idea that people are born sort of with this idea like of doing good things for good intentions. And sometimes things get in the way of that happening. But if the flexibility is there for them to be able to communicate in the way that makes them feel more comfortable, you wonder how much more people would exponentially probably communicate when they see stuff, and then who knows what positive benefits can come from that.
One of the biggest challenges that I hear in the industry, and I see it a little bit, and it's especially at like universities, getting that younger generation to download those apps, and I kind of chuckle a little bit. I'm like, yeah, do I want to download the security app when I'm going to a frat party and I'm under 21 and I'm going to be drinking beer? And I said, but what we want to do is get those kids doing it. And so I'm actually working with some students from the University of Houston, and working with them is how do I approach generation X, Y, and Z to help me answer that question. What do you want? How do you want to engage with this? You want to be safe. They want to be safe. But they also want to feel that their, big brother isn't watching them. They also, so there's certain needs that they have. And so my thing is I want to be a technology that I just don't bring it out and then it sits on somebody's shelf. I want to bring it out and I want to know that people are going to use it and see value in it. And so I'm going out of my way to try to figure out what would make you download this app and use it, and how can I and tell me and give me that feedback. And so that's what I'm trying to also do, because I know that there's challenges. I know that there's a lot of distrust right now in our communities between law enforcement and the public and law enforcement. And my thing is, how can I use my technology, Guardian Zone, to bridge that communication gap? Because at the end of the day, we're all Americans, we're all humans, we all want to be safe, and we all want to live. And so, let's use something like this to bridge that gap and to get the conversations going.
Absolutely. And so if people want to find out more information, where's the best place to do that?
Well, they can go to my website, which is guardianzone.com. They can contact us at info@guardianzone.com. And they can actually call us at 866-866-8731.
Awesome. Well, Sheryl, I really appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate taking the time to tell us. Thank you for your service that you did for many, many years, and then you now
Thank you.
continuing to carry that through. You know, I love the mission that you're on. I love the idea of spreading, uh, you know, communication, creating platforms that are open,
Yeah.
protecting people, not these walled gardens that you know that make it very hard for people to do that. But then meeting them where they're at and allowing them to communicate where they feel most comfortable, but then bring meaningful information back. So thank you. If I could be of any help, as always, you know, happy to do so. And I look forward to seeing all the success that you'll have.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Sheryl.